Welcome to Fitness and Thinking, a podcast and newsletter interested in 6 pillars of well-being. We have the physical, mental, social, emotional, spiritual, and financial aspects of being. In this chat, what do you reckon, Rhys? What did we touch on that you
physical,
enjoyed?
Emotional. I think we probably went from all of them, really.
The idea of people might be built differently only in the sense of their upbringing, their backgrounds, and that maybe there could be something painful in a person's past rather than necessarily they've got a different skeleton that means that they're able to do something. We talked about mechanisms for staying, I think, sane, for managing workloads, for managing relationships, for managing anxiety. And one expression that I think will trademark has to be time on feet.
Let's go.
And there are a couple of shout outs to people who inspire you and have supported you, which I think they'll all appreciate hearing. The bit as well from moving from, say, half marathon to ultra distances and why it's not necessarily linear. I thought your points there were massive. And
I never did a marathon, by the way. Still haven't done a marathon.
So there we go. How I think people would look at those as a staircase, and actually, the way that you describe it, it's not linear, it's not obvious to somebody who's not done it before. And the sense of if you don't do it, you'll never know.
I think that is nailed it on the head. I think if you don't do it, you'll never know. Stop asking questions, stop worrying, stop stressing, just book the damn race or whatever it is. Make it hard enough that it scares you and do it, and you'll do it.
There's more to fitness than having a six-pack, I would say, Rhys. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, obviously having abs is nice. I'm trying to get some abs back, but there most definitely is. I think the ultra hard things are way more rewarding for me personally, and I think for most people who are listening, if you give it yourself a chance and believe in yourself to go do it, you'll sit back after and be like, "Damn, I'm capable." And then that's just the start. It's the chain reaction. Maybe you'll run 100 miles, 200 miles. Who knows?
If you haven't already, like and subscribe. We'll drop Rhys's socials in, even though he's not necessarily on them all the time. Leave likes, leave comments.
Peace.
So when I met you, Rhys, you had just finished the 100-mile event. This is the second race that you did for Cameron Slater. Now, who was Cameron Slater to you, and why did you run in memory of him?
I barely knew him. He was a lovely lad. So I actually went to buy a new car, and I didn't want to buy a car from main dealer because obviously it's expensive, but went to Sitna just on a whim to look for a new vehicle. And when I was there, I saw this like nice 5 Series, and I was debating between a 5 Series and a 4 Series, just to future proof. But I knew I wasn't going to buy a car, but I wanted to test drive a car. So I get in there, meet Cameron. I think he was 21 when I met him, or 22. I basically, as soon as I met him, we just got on so well. He was so cool, so chilled, so like unsalesman-like in a sense. And maybe that was part of his sales tactic, I don't know, but he seemed like a very genuine kid to me. So I felt quite bad straight away, and I said, "Look, mate," I said, "I don't want to waste your time, but I want to buy a car. So I want to test drive a car, but I'm not going to buy it from you because it's too expensive." I says, "But if the perfect car comes along and the perfect price, I will. But just being frank with you, the chances are probably relatively slim I get it from you." And he said, "Sound, let's do it." It was cool. So we test drove the car and went out there. And from that, we started to have like a really deep chat, which is just it's typical me. I just start waffling on and find a common ground with somebody, and then we just build on it. And it was almost sort of based on about like him being an entrepreneur and wanted to have got big dreams. And as I got to know him more and know his family really well, obviously I've learned a lot about him since his passing, and he very much was on a path to great things. And he didn't want to take over his dad's business, even though his dad worked really hard and the business was really good. He just had his own dreams and aspirations, but he was scared to talk to his dad about it. And I remember saying, like, "Look, lad, you only live one life." And obviously me and him come from very different backgrounds, and he's very fortunate. And obviously I come from a different perspective. So I was thinking, like, "Mate, you live one life, you just got to do what makes you happy." So anyway, I ended up not buying that car. And then I found another car from Nottingham Sitna. So I called him and said, "Look, mate, I found a car. I want you to make the money on it. Call Nottingham and get it over to us." So went over, did that, brought my missus. She met Cameron. We then went through the whole process. So the first time I met him was a couple of hours. Second time was like 5 hours. So through that, we've become really close. I think she very much saw her younger brother in him, in a sense. We obviously moved on from that, bought the car. He got the equity, he got the commission from it. That was that. I then went to his dad's garage to get my car serviced once. That's when I first met his dad, but it was only a brief interaction. And then I saw Cameron in the gym, give me a hug, said, "Let's catch up soon." Yeah, that was nice. And then at the time I was working away from home, I didn't have my phone on me most of the time. So when I got back, my missus called me and said, "Oh my God, like, you wouldn't believe it." I said, "Watch this, Cameron's dead." And bear in mind, I didn't know the guy. I don't know, I felt so bizarre. Like, I felt really peculiar, really odd about it. I can't really explain why, apart from just him being a genuine kid and having a really nice connection with him, which is quite rare, I do find. And I don't know, just for the rest of the day, I felt really strange about it. And even the next day at work, I felt really strange. I have this weird compulsion to like help people. And I think it comes from trauma and childhood and stuff, but like it's an overriding compulsion to do things. I get loads of messages about random things and random people about training and bits and bobs. I take so much time to put into people. And I don't know why. I think I do it because it makes me feel better. But ultimately, I thought, you know what? I want to go see Cameron's parents and I want to tell them the story of how I met Cameron. Because obviously he's going to have all of his friends and family coming around giving their condolences. And obviously that's the right thing to do. But I thought if I was a dad and a random person showed up at my door and said, I didn't really know your son, but I want to tell you a story about how I met your son. And he touched me enough that I'm here. I think that would be really nice for me to have that moment. So I wanted to just give that moment to the family. So obviously we got Darren, which is Cameron's dad, Bernie, which is his mom, Chandler, which is his sister. And then obviously Sean is now fiance to Chandler. And then lastly, Ethan, which is Cameron's younger cousin. It's really mad how I've sort of went over just to say my condolences and a story. And now I'm like intertwined into these people's lives. And then from that, I just said, when I was there, I had this mad feeling. I said, you know what? I said, I don't know him or know you guys, but I want to do something. I want to run a big race for charity. I don't know how far it will be, but it'll be further enough, and we'll see what we can raise. I next go to the funeral. Bear in mind, I didn't know anybody at the funeral, but I get to the funeral. There's about 1,000 people at this funeral. Genuinely, they're blown away by 1,000 people. I go by myself, and it's bizarre because I don't know anybody, and I'm just surrounded by 1,000 people. And I sort of sit in this church like, fuck me, this is just a strange place to be. I don't know anybody. Like it was an odd situation that I've sort of caught myself up in. But anyway, I saw the family, quickly said hello, and I said to Sean, look, I found a race. I'll be in touch soon. And that was that. And I left. So I went away, found a race, 70 miles, 4.5 weeks away. I hadn't been running for a year. I don't like running, but I'd been doing Thai boxing. So I had base fitness, and I knew mentally I could give it a go. We'll be all right. Obviously, after speaking to them and getting the okay to make the charity page, because obviously I didn't want to put too much pressure on them, they said, okay, started the charity page. And I think within 4 or 5 hours, we raised $5,000 or $7,000. The initial target was only a couple of £1,000 it was. So then the target went up. And then the following day, I was at like 7 to 10 grand. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And then obviously over that, we end up raising 13.5 grand by the end of the race. So I do the race and come second in that. And then we had 13.5. I sort of went off topic there, but that's how that's who Cameron was to me at that point in my life.
Check me on this. Cameron died in his sleep. Is that right?
He died of some sort of cardiac event is what they believe. Ultimately, the term is sudden adult death syndrome. So they think his heart's obviously stopped during his sleep, but he never had any issues or any heart concerns or any pre-medical history to it. He went to bed one day feeling poorly. He said to his mom, I'm feeling poorly, I'm going to have a bath. He went to bed that day and unfortunately never woke up.
And with the work that you've done with Cameron's family and further races, you've raised an amount of money and held an event in Coventry, is that right, for people to get checked for this?
Yeah, so just to pull it back quickly on that, what was sort of crazy is when we raised the money, we never had a goal per se, apart from just a rough goal of a couple of £1,000 just to buy some defibrillators. It was a very loose goal, and what it ended up being was a bit crazy really how it all sort of come to be, because that 13.5 grand, yes, it's a big number, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge number of charity stuff, but for a very small community per se, because we didn't go national or anything with it. It was all fundraised between friends and family and word of mouth, which was amazing. But that money ended up being a lot more than we thought. So we ended up ring fencing a fund under Cameron's name. So the charity called CRY, which is Cardiac Risk in the Young. I'll have to check the statistics, but it's 10 people die every week in the UK, which is crazy, of cardiac events. But you don't think about people dying of heart attacks at young ages, do you? So obviously CRY do loads of work around that, and that's their charity. But to have a charity under CRY, you have to donate like £6,000 to them, and that goes to their core research and other bits and bobs. But through that, you can then become affiliated with CRY, and they'll do events for you if you pay for the events, etc. So that money ended up ring fencing the fund for Cameron's cause, which is the charity name. It then placed a couple of defibrillators and plaques throughout the city in different gyms, and then it then funded the first heart screening day. But it cost £6,800 to fund 100 people's heart scans. And it's like a year in advance. So you have to put the money in, and then you have to then wait a year essentially for the doctors and to come down and have the event. So that's what we ended up doing. So the money went a lot further than just a couple of defibs of what we thought it was going to be. And leading on from that, we had the first heart screening day earlier this year. We scanned 105 people's hearts. I believe the CRY statistics are every 300 heart scans, they find one serious heart issue. On our 105 people, I believe we had about 3 to 4 serious heart scans. One, which I only found out recently, was life-saving. and then about 10 referrals just for the heart rhythms being out of place and stuff. So you sort of leave and you think it's 1 in 300, but we got 4 heart scans, 1 life-saving, and 10 referrals, and 105 people. So we found out one girl had a scar on her heart, and the young lad, I don't know his name. I think he was planning to swim for GB and still is. He had some sort of heart defect where he had to have some life-saving surgery and then had a pacemaker fitted at only 19. But apparently when he found out, they rushed him to hospital, took him to hospital really urgently, and he was in tears in the hall when he had his heart scanned. But obviously the knockback from that is now, we found out recently, someone saw him and then he's got a pacemaker fit. He's 19 years old, and they said you would have potentially died the next couple of years. And that's the sort of thing where when I did the race, my brain didn't go there like, I'm going to save someone's life. I would like to save someone's life, and it's a nice thing to do, but you don't think that, do you? So for it to have actually gone through, and now genuinely someone's not going to have to go through unfortunately what Cameron's family have gone through, it's a strange feeling, if I'm honest. Like, yeah, it's strange.
I think the events that you've done, Rhys, are incredible of themselves, and we've not even touched on what you've actually done yet. We've mentioned 70 miles, but that's just one event. What I would just like to maybe touch on, since it's here and you've walked us through it in the way that you have, is what is your message? Like, what is going through your head at the moment? What's the kind of soul feel that you have based on where you're up to now relative to how this journey started?
It's strange because I don't feel like a certain way about it, because the honesty is that I didn't do this for any other reason apart from I just wanted to help the family. So it's strange because it's not like I had a big goal of, okay, this is my life path, X, Y, and Z, and if I do X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, I'll get to D. I sort of went into this just to help a grieving family, and now I am where I am. So I don't know if I've actually really ever sat and thought about it, if I'm honest. I just think it's mad, and that's what I say to my best friends sometimes. I say it's just crazy. And it still is these days. I'm a really deep thinker in some regards. In other regards, I don't deep it too much. I sort of feel like, you know what, I'm just doing the right thing. I'm doing good. There's no more to it. I'm not here for clout. I'm not here for anything. I'm just doing what I think is right. And if I can make some people happy in the moment or help out and potentially save lives, then it's the right thing to do. I don't know. I don't think about it all the time because I don't put myself on a pedestal about it. Ultimately, I'm just doing what I think people should do, I suppose, and just helping out. I don't know. It's definitely one thing I would say. It has definitely changed my what's the word? My relationship with training. It's done that. But as in my I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. I think I haven't got a big motivational answer for that, apart from I'm just here to help people, and if I can make people happy, then that is what it is.
Which is massive. And I think, as you say, you had such a positive interaction with this person that sometimes can feel rare, and you don't necessarily feel like you have this big reason for doing what you're doing. It feels to me, Rhys, that you're driven by something that it feels like raw energy. So we know each other because of a mutual friend. Yeah. And when
shout
out Dan West, he was so grounding and positive for me when I knew him through uni, and he became one of my ride or dies. And the way he described you was exactly the same. So I was obviously keen to meet you.
Yeah.
And when we were both in commentary in April, he was just like, oh, Rhys is actually about. He's going to pop over. I was like, great. One thing you should know about Rhys, Dan says to me,
talks a lot,
is that he has an ability to talk and more energy than you'll ever come across in a person. Where do you think this comes from? Yeah, where do you think the talking comes from? Where do you think the energy comes from? And as a last point, because I think you've hinted at it, and I want to push you as far as you're comfortable with it, is it always positive, would you say?
Oh, wow. Where's it come from? I don't know. I've always been this way as a kid. I think, and I hate people do this because people do this, but because everyone likes to say they're undiagnosed with something. But I truly believe I'm undiagnosed with ADHD and some sort of form of autism. I must be, because my compulsions are unbelievable. And my drive is unbelievable in a sense. But ever since I was a kid, I've always been high energy. I think the biggest thing, like the energy, I can't really explain. It's just my brain, how it works, 100 miles an hour all the time. And when I find something interesting, like, you better believe I'm going down the rabbit hole. And I think, I suppose it always comes from, ultimately, I think that who I am it stems from childhood trauma, I suppose. And I think I learned from a really young age, because I'm dyslexic, I'm not academic, I am a bit of an idiot, and I'm very much like, by the by, I'm very relaxed and very chill. I don't take things very seriously, I take myself too serious. But when I was at school, I got suspended loads of times. I think in 1 year I had 98 detentions, got suspended 3 times in a year. And again, I was just a naughty kid. And I did some bad stuff. Like I was silly. Like I was a naughty kid. But when I look back at now, I'm older. I was just that way because I was traumatized. You know what I mean? I was having a hard time at home. I had a lot going on, and I didn't know how to manage my energy apart from being the class clown and being loud. So I think very early I learned that if I'm loud and silly and have big energy, people are drawn to me. And I like that. And I do like, and obviously everyone likes to be liked and I like to be popular. And I think that obviously over the years has just sort of molded itself in a way. But with that, I was lazy and I was chaotic. And as I got older, I started realizing, okay, well, I've got a lot of energy here. If I can harness this in the right way, and this is where like my dad especially sort of guided me. I've had a very up and down relationship with my dad, but now I have a great relationship. He always guided me in that sense about like working hard and keeping level headed. And he always said to me, like, you're the type of kid, like if you focus on something, like you're unbelievable. Like you got the X factor. But if you don't focus, you're just a terror, like in all forms. But you've got this weird, passionate driver. Anything you put your mind to, you best believe you're learning it. To the point where when I got interested in dogs, I honestly learned every dog fact for like a year. I'm buying books, reading about dogs. It's crazy. Dog breeds for no reason. I haven't even got a dog. Yeah, I've done it with many things. Road cycling, multi, fucking BJJ, running, cycling, swimming.
You were a bodybuilder as well at one point.
Oh, powerlifter, yeah.
Powerlifter.
100 kilos at one point. I suppose what I was trying to get at is I've had to work really hard, and I have, unfortunately. My parents aren't bad people, but they were two dysfunctional people trying to raise 3 children together. And through that, a lot of things happened. And again, I'm dyslexic and I'm naughty and I failed pretty much all my GCSEs. Don't come from any money, super poor. Never went on holiday till I was 21. And I went on holiday because my best friend's dad paid for me. So shout out Steve Pearson. Just poor, and I had nothing, and I had nothing to fall back on. So my parents couldn't bail me out. They live in they live in sheltered accommodation. And it was like, I've got to make this or break this. And there's no one bailing me out here. And I think with that, it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm either sinking or swimming here. And if I'm sinking, it is on me. Because all of my friends, fortunate for them, and it's the way it should be, and it will be the way for my kids, is that their parents would be there for them. And they had the stability and they had the money and they had, what's the word? Yeah, the stability, I suppose, whereas I didn't. So I always sort of said to myself, I was either going to end up in jail or dead, or I was going to do well. And like, they were really the two options. And when I think about it, 98 detentions in 1 year, 3 times suspended, failing my GCSEs, being a tearaway, being loud and brash and the class clown and all this, I was sort of on one path. I was on a doll at one point. And I don't know anyway. So I'll start to digress. What I was sort of saying is I learned very early that if I can become friends with people, I can do okay in life. To Warwick University when I was powerlifting. And I had a couple of British records powerlifting because I was super obsessive about training, and I'd squat 3 to 5 days a week. And I did some great things with powerlifting. But from that, someone liked me at Warwick University and gave me a job. Said, why don't you become a fitness instructor? So I became a fitness instructor, went down the rabbit hole there, did well. So that was an in to something only because I was liked. I then went to Apollo Gym, the gym manager. I was training there, Lee Hunt, still friends. I was chatting to him earlier today. Great guy, amazing geezer. He said, do you want a job as a PT? So I went and did my PT qualification, got a gym there. And I was like, oh, get on people here. Like, this is quite good. I then met another lad who was like, I think he was like a managing director of the biggest tree surgery firm in the West Mids. He offered me a job as a tree surgeon because I was like, what am I going to do with myself? I'm not going to be a PT in the rest of my life. I didn't want to do that. I loved training, but I was never going to go down that the whole way. So then I was like, well, I've got no qualifications. I'm dumb. Like, I must be a tree surgeon because someone's giving me an in. That didn't work out for whatever reason. It didn't work out. And then I was like, oh, I can't stay here. I don't want to do this anymore. I did it for years. I then had to work on a line in a factory. And bear in mind, I went from earning decent money to suddenly working in a factory on minimum wage. I think at the time it was like £8 an hour or something daft. And I was doing a week of earlies, a week of days, and a week of nights. And I went to a place where most people didn't speak English and no one spoke, and you wore earplugs. So I went from suddenly being really active, really chatty, to suddenly I can't speak to nobody. And I'm literally putting a fuel tank in, bang, pressing it, earning no money. And that's probably, I'll never say I've been depressed. I've been very low at times, but I've never been depressed. I never put myself personally in that box. But I was on an all-time low, to the point where I was like calling my dad every day, going to work, crying. And I thought, what am I doing myself here? Like, what is going on? I did this for a month, like 3 months. And I was so low at the time. And I was like, how's my life gone this way? What am I doing? Again, I knew this lad who I used to PT. He was a manager at this company. Give me a shot. Why don't you join this team with us? 27 grand a year. And I thought, when I was younger, I thought if I make 30 grand a year, I'm the man. Offered 27 grand a year. And I thought, freaking hell. So went to apply for this job, got told basically, I don't deserve to have this job. And you ain't going to get this. My mate vouched for me. I got the damn job. And then from that, it was soon like I was earning 27 grand a year. And I thought, you know what? Like, I basically made my life goal now and I failed everything. Like, maybe if I keep working hard, these things work out. Because anything I've really been successful at was like powerlifting, but anything I focused on. Got that job, saved some money, got a house deposit for a flat, So I bought my first flat at 27. I'm like, how have I done this? And it's through people liking me or getting on with me and people giving me a chance. And I think this is the thing, people giving me a chance. And I thought, freaking hell, like, if I keep working out, maybe I'll do all right. Did that for a few years. And then my brain was, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is too unstimulating. I need to be stimulated with the energy. So I was like, my dad said, why don't you do this job that I do now? The industry for a while now, and things are going really well for me. It sounds crazy, but I've gone from nothing, I mean, literally nothing, to the point now where I have a nice house, a nice car, a good job, a beautiful wife, obviously heal my relationships with my family, and like I have a great in-laws and everyone around me. And I still have my best friends from school, down west being one of them. And I've been on all these crazy holidays, and like I earn sort of decent money and stuff. And I just sort of think like I've just learned hard work matters. So that's my personal life. And then obviously with the training side of things, with the British records, and then the running, and then the charity work, and then meeting Darren and Bernie, obviously Cameron's family. I've just really realised if I just work hard and I'm nice to people and I do the right thing, life's good. And that's just really where I am, I suppose. Now I just see the importance of just staying in your lane, keeping life simple. Don't do too much. Don't try and impress people. Ultimately, be around people who care about you and do what you want to do. I suppose some of it's luck, a lot of it's hard work. It's only going up. And now, yeah, I feel very happy, I suppose, and content in my life.
It's amazing to hear. And I think something that sticks out for me is sticking at it, not giving up, not saying that this is the end. It's what can I do differently, and recognizing moments of change and opportunity. There's something that I want to ask of you as a mate, but also somebody who has listened to you talk about yourself in the way that you have for the past 10 minutes or so.
Waffle.
No, it's more the dumb bit, or, like, I've come from nothing, not very bright, not very academic. How would you describe yourself now?
I'm not academic. I'm not organized, and I don't pretend that, and I know that. But that's not my strengths. My strengths are being able to talk to people. That is my gift of what I've been given. It's my ability to talk to people and make friends, and that's my strength. I'm not dumb, like I say. Like, I'm not actually stupid. But if I'm not interested, then I'm not learning it and I'm not listening. But if I am interested, you best believe no one's going to know more about this sport or this subject than I am, be it dog facts or be it about running or swimming technique and all this crazy stuff, or even about gear, like as in like running trainers. And I was looking into swimsuits the other day. I bought a £300 swimsuit. I spent like 6 months reviewing this. So no, I'm not dumb, and it's just I have to be interested. My brain works that way. I need to be stimulated. So no, I'd say I'm a good person, and I'd say like I'm definitely damaged and traumatized in certain ways, but I'd like to say that I do the best with what I've got. I don't know if that answers the question, or you want to answer.
It's reassuring to hear, because I want you to talk in terms that I can clearly see and feel when I spend time with you. It's that there's this light that shines from you. There's this intense energy, intense burning for something. And I think it is extraordinary. And the way that you talk about other people, you big them up. You've already mentioned 3 or 4 people that you want to big up just in this chat. So I wanted you to do that for yourself a little bit. Each episode of F&T takes about 10 hours to put together from start to finish. So if you could give me a second, maybe 2 seconds of your time to drop a like, subscribe, follow, that would be incredible. So Rhys, with your need to move and your need to be stimulated, I think it's appropriate at this point to come on to the sport, the fitness, the running, if you're ready to do that.
It's therapy in a sense. I've become very good, and this will tie back in, like I've become very good at self-regulating my emotions. So again, I've been through a lot, I'm a very emotional person. My best friend see me cry all the time. Like, well, honestly, I go out, I'm drinking. Westy especially gets it in the neck recently. He loves sitting there and watching me cry and talk to him. So like, I'm okay with not being okay, and I've had to learn to do that. So I've had some amazing friends around me supporting me, and they're ultimately the reason why I am where I am. So it is Jerome Donkor, Chris Pearson, Dan West, Sonny Massey, and more recently Rhys Morris, and I've got some other great people around me. But I learned from a young age that not being okay, the only way I can get through this is venting. So I talk all day at school, and I would be on the phone for 4 to 5 hours every single day after school. I'd be on the phone 7 days a week. This is when you have to call for 59 minutes, put the phone down, call back. And I sort of learned through that that's a really good control mechanism. And another good control mechanism is concentration on a sport and consuming goals. So the running really wasn't that. The running more come from Cameron and sustained through Cameron and the relationship with Darren and Bernie. As for the training, I know that ultimately to self-medicate, I have to burn that energy. I have to have time to think. Like when I run a lot, I don't listen to music most of the time. And you find this crazy, but I've ran over 100 miles and I didn't listen to a single song during that 100 miles plus 100. Like I didn't listen to anything. And like, I think for me, like I've just learned that you need time to be bored, to think about the past, because ultimately nothing that's never going to change. I ain't changing the past and I'm not escaping it. I'm not going to mystically be healed. People say that you don't heal from trauma, you just learn to cope with it better, don't you? Unfortunately, I am what I am and I am where I am, but I've just learned through that I can cope if I do the right things, and that is spending time with people I want to spend time with, doing what I want to do, not getting pulled into all the nonsense and drama, and just training. So like venting and training, and it's just a compulsion of that. It helps me. So I think now the compulsion is like I like being okay. I'm not an anxious person, but I definitely am an anxious person if I don't train. And this side of things people don't see, and even my partner doesn't see it because I'm always training. But there has been pasts when I like drink a bit of alcohol and like I don't train, I'm a bit lazy, don't train for a few weeks at a time, but don't do that anymore. I'd be really anxious, like unbelievably anxious. And because I'm not one to go to medication, there's nothing wrong with that. I just personally don't. I never have done it. I've just had to then self-medicate, which is through movement. And that's just why I do it. But for me, it has to be a big goal. It can't be small because it's pointless in my brain. And it started off small, do a half marathon, and then obviously it went over 100 miles, and it's obviously going towards 200. And to achieve these goals, you need discipline and consistency, and you need a big ass workload, because you ain't running 100 miles, 200 miles, training little amounts. So you've just got to train hard. And then for me, I'm like, yeah, I'll put myself in the fire. And I'm just so used to putting myself in the fire that I can train 7 days a week, and I can double days a couple of times a week on top of that.
So how long is a typical session if you're going to train for 100-mile runs, 200-mile runs? How long do you have to be out for?
At that time, you're probably running bare minimum 10 miles, at least 10 miles a day, up to 20, 30 miles. And then I'd try and do a gym session on top of that for like an hour and a half. But only I do it a couple of times a week, because you've got to manage a partner, a job, my body breaking down. And I think that's my like superpower, but also my weakness in the sense of like I can put myself into the fire. I just have this ability to be able to get out the door and go. I never want to do it, but I've conditioned myself over years to go do it. And once you get into the habit of it, it's easy. I had this great saying, and the great saying is: the more you do, the more you can do. The less you do, the less you can do. So people always say to me at work, "How do you go train after the day?" I say, "Because it's just what I do." I'm like, "How don't you?" Because I'm knackered. I'm like, "Yeah, so am I." But I've been there. When I go home and have a few beers and eat food, eat crap and don't sleep well, guess what? The next day I feel shit. And if I don't train that next day, guess what? I do the same thing. I eat crap, gain weight, I feel shit, feel lethargic, I don't drink any water, then I feel terrible, I've got no energy. And then you do that for a few weeks, before you know it, you have got no energy. So I realized that if you're going to do it, you just got to suffer at the start. And before you know it, it doesn't become easy. It is still really hard, but you have the energy to do it. And you realize that when you are tired, you just move. An impending date brings action, doesn't it? I think it's called like the Spartan effect, when it's like people say like, "Oh, I'm going to get in shape before I do something. Or before I do a high rocks, I'm going to get in shape. Before I run a half marathon, I'm going to get in shape. Before I join the MMA gym, I'm going to get in shape." They never get in shape. They never do the race. They never join the gym. You've got to book the date and then go. And then guess what? You get in shape through it. And I think that's been studied quite a bit, and that's really fascinating because it's so true. Like if the date ain't coming down, then you ain't training, because there will be days. It's happened to me. Obviously, I got a high rocks in 27 days. The last couple of days, I don't want to train. Every day, guess what do? I train. Because the date's there. If the date wasn't there, I wouldn't train. Well, I still might, but back in the day, I wouldn't have. I would have just said, "Oh, screw this, I ain't doing this nonsense." Because there's no point, is there? Is there really?
I get that. I think it can be really helpful for people who procrastinate or push things off to have a date, or to have an accountability partner, or to have something external to them to report to.
Massively, 100%.
Yeah, because there will be moments in my training plan. It definitely happened through the summer where I met you following the longest run I'd ever done.
Yes, you did. It's half marathon, wasn't it?
I was training for the half marathon. And
but you ran a half marathon actually when you met me. Or no, you ran just shy of 10 miles. I can't remember what it was. You ran a decent distance.
Right, it was a good distance, and I was really happy with it. And then you told me that you'd just run 100 miles and there wasn't a scratch on you.
Oh, there was. I was in a hole.
But from my perspective, it was one of those moments where I looked up to Dan, and Dan was talking throughout. He was checking in on me. he'd run the distance before, and he was aspirational for me. And I was really happy with what we did. I was tired, I was sore, but it was good. Like, I felt accomplished. You told me about having run, I think it was 100 miles at that point the week before, as I was saying.
105.
105 miles.
I didn't want to run the extra 5 miles, I got lost. That's the worst part. I did get lost, so yeah.
I can't even imagine running through the night, but doing that with your friends and having support, but then also just the tenacity and the capacity to do that was unbelievable. And I recognized that there wasn't just levels to this, there were planets, you know, complete different solar systems. But I didn't feel anything other than wow, awe, you know? And I went into my next distance run, and I think that was, maybe it was a week, 2 weeks after that, I ran around Barcelona, and I did it without music, kind of inspired by you. I just took in everything that was around me, and it was fun. It was fun in a way that I hadn't experienced before.
Yeah.
You know, I was in a state of mind where I could take photos of the Sagrada Familia or the beach and enjoy other people playing sport. Mind where I could take photos of the Sagrada Familia or the beach and enjoy other people playing sport while I was moving quicker than I ever had before and breathing better than I ever had before. And it was just this way of being in the world while moving that I hadn't experienced. And I think it's necessary to have uncapped, and not least for the spectacle, but so humans can understand how far humans can go.
I was going to quickly stop you on that though, moving forward there. One thing you said to me, and I find this really fascinating, and I've had this chat a few times recently, and got a few people to sign up to some races, is the whole pedestal of things. Like, when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, like, my performance is a poor. Sign up for a damn race, and you'll go and do it. And I think, for me, the great thing I loved during the ultras is you see some fascinating people. So when I went out on that last 105 miles, I was about 70 miles in, nearly 80 miles in, because I picked Ethan up and we were coming back down the canal. And as I come back down the canal, bear in mind, it's like 1 a.m. or something daft. And I'm in a hole. And as I'm running down this hill, bear in mind, you have to come up to this canal, do like a 20-mile loop around the canal, and then back to the starting point and run down the hill. I'm in a hole, and I know the time, and I'm like, I've been out for a long period of time. I feel bad for anyone who's behind me because that was shit. And I did it a couple of hours ahead of you when it was warmer. And I see this headlight coming towards me, and I thought, oh, someone coming up the hill. And it was like a 78, 79-year-old woman. And I was like, are you okay? She's like, yeah. And I was like, fair place to you. And she's like, I failed this last year, but I'm passing, I'm doing it this year. And she was in her 70s. And I was perplexed. And she can do it. You can do it. We can all do it. The difference is you just got to book the damn race and don't go do it. And that to me is like that side of things. It's humbling. Like, chill out. You're not that impressive. No one's impressive. Like, I don't take myself that serious. So everyone else needs to stop taking themselves that serious. If you want to do a race, just book the damn race and go do it. And like, ultimately, it doesn't matter. We're just humans. Like, we're here for a little time. We're here for a short period of time, aren't we? At the end of the day, just go do what you want to do, and before you know it, like, you've done it. And that's that.
Question that I wrote down leading up to this was, what do people get wrong about distance running as a concept? What do people get wrong about distance runners? And I think what you've done here is actually highlight the notion that it could be a mentality thing. But when we talk about being built different or not, okay, some people might be more injury prone, some people might be better able to recover, some people might have more capacity to stay on their feet for longer. Obviously, with something like a 100-mile race, there's an element of how long can you go without sleep because you're on your feet for so long. I did one of my first podcasts was with a guy who studied psychopathy in elite sports, and he looks at events that last longer than 6 hours. So we're tapping into this ultra aspect, and be diagnosed on the spectrum of psychopathy. You can't be diagnosed as a psychopath. And some psychopathic traits in the right context are adaptive. Yeah. And typically in sporting settings, we applaud them, you know? Yeah. The ability to stick in, the ability to run quickly, but endure the amount of lactic acid buildup. If you put in the work to do the thing, you are capable of doing it. Yeah. And the difference between, as you describe, somebody who hasn't run 100 miles and the 78, 79-year-old woman who you saw on the track is experience time, repetition, and just doing it. And I think
that's all it is.
That's huge. Yeah, because even I don't want to pedestalize based on what you've said, but I don't want to minimize either my own experience of building up to the half marathon. I couldn't run a half marathon before this year. As you say, I could have walked it maybe. I could have hiked it if I needed to at the end of it. And the 10K that I ran on Sunday felt more like a hike than a run. It was the worst feeling I've had in my feet.
It's fine, isn't it? But that's good though, builds resilience.
But it was a case of each week doing a little bit more. It's a case of each week showing up to every session and not expecting to set records in every session, just banking that session.
Yep.
You know, and each session is programmed to be a little bit more challenging than the one before it, outside of rest weeks and minor deloads to account for injuries and all this good stuff. So if you have a proper plan, maybe you have a coach, maybe you have friends in your corner who've already done it, they will tell you to build it up bit by bit.
Yeah, I will interject there. I think it's really true. One thing I will say, it is just pain. It's nothing. It's just pain. It comes and goes. It's fleeting. You never remember it, do you? But one thing I would say with ultra running, which I think ultra running specifically foregoes everything you're saying in the sense of, yes, linear progression, and you want to be obviously progressing linearly to get better at things, and you start low and get high. Don't get me wrong, there will be a great way, a best way to train per se. But there's a woman called Courtney Dauwalter, who's one of the best ultra runners in the world. And like, I train very similar to her, not because of watching her, but I just do, is that it is just time on feet, especially in ultra running. Like ultimately, I started my training block for the last race at 30 miles a week. So I was running for around 30 miles a week, and I probably spent 7, 8, 9 hours in the gym. And then all I did was just go up in mileage, more running, less gym. So I've got a little bit of running, loads of gym. And then as it goes along, it's literally loads of running, a little bit of freaking gym. But I didn't specify anything. I just said to myself, okay, well, I'm running 30 miles this week, 40 the next, 50 the next, 57 the next, 65, 77, 80, 190. I peaked at 102 miles, I think. And then I raced. Every session was not planned. I literally get home from work, because obviously I have to work, and I'd literally be like, I can't be asked today. And I'd go out the door and I'd just go run. And then as I'm running, I'd be like, I'm just going to do 14 miles today. And I run 14. Then the next day I'll go and be like, I feel like shit, I'm going to do 6. And then me just being me, I'd go run 15. But as I'm running, I'm telling myself, like, well, if I run 15 today, it means I've got less mileage to finish at the end of the week. So just go do the work. And I think that's the thing I'm getting at. Like, yes, specifically, if you're looking at half marathons and faster races, 5Ks, 10Ks, gym work, etc., yes, you need a lot more linear progression and structure. But my biggest takeaway to tell people with running is, if you want to fucking get good at running, go fucking run. And start little and go bigger. And don't worry about polarized training and tempo sessions, speed work and critical velocity. No, just go run and move a lot and get used to running when you don't want to run, and run when the conditions are shit, because that builds resilience. So I'm a massive believer in running through the winter and training through the winter. It's called the wintering. Winter yourself. Go do the hard sessions. You either do it or you don't do it. You book the race and you show up or you don't show up. I personally book a race, tell everyone about it, so then every time they see me, how's training going? And if I don't do the race, then it's on me, isn't it? Sorry to interject there.
No, that's huge. I wonder if we can package it nicely for people, Rhys. So obviously we were talking about how with a half marathon, maybe even a marathon, linear progression could be expected. And there's different types of sessions, the 5K, the 10K, tempos, intervals, hills, running halves. Building up that distance would make sense. But when it comes to the ultra, what do we do differently? And how do we scale that jump? And for you, it's a case of, right, you already know that you can do the marathon distance.
Yeah.
You talk about how some weeks or some sessions you might only have been able to do 6 miles. Others you would have gone out and run 40. Like how does a person who's not used to running know how to regulate in the way that you did?
And the best way I could say to get good at running ultras or ready for an ultra is walk everywhere. You need to go to the shops, walk to the shops. You need to go do this, walk. If you need to go and then just run. Ultimately, you're going to have like easy. Everyone loves this word, but zone 2, you will have an aerobic base. It comes down as simple as this. An aerobic run is making your heart stronger. So you're basically running when you're not anaerobic, so you're not burning glycogen really very fast. You're not going into the red, because you can only run burning carbs and burning like energy at that fast of a rate where you're building lactic up for a certain period of time. So you want to be able to run low and slow. And that's ultimately the goal for long distance. But you'll have obviously your aerobic sessions. You then have your long sessions, which are essentially aerobic session, but they're harder because they're longer. So you do a couple of aerobic sessions, you do one long session. And then you got, if you want to, like the whole polarized training style of stuff is just 2 speed workouts. So one could be a tempo and one could be a critical velocity. When that's more, again, based towards a lot of like 10Ks, halves, marathons. As for ultras, again, people will probably argue that you should do speed work. For me, realistically, tell me how many days you can run per week. And I mean that you are going to do non-negotiable, none of this whinging about your kids or whinging about finishing work late or being cold outside or whatever. How many can you guarantee you're going to do? Once you've got that number, take a day off it and then set that as your goal and just go out and run aerobically. Start yourself off every session just going out running aerobically. And if you ain't got a heart rate monitor or you don't know your zones, just run to conversational pace. Which the best thing is take your headphones, call your missus or call whoever, call your mate, go for a run. And if you can talk relatively well, you're probably zone 2. Yes. And at the level of people being lower, they don't need to get it perfect. They don't need to go have the tests done. They don't need to find their VO2 max out on their exact zones. And when they go from zone 2 to 3 and blah, 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 pick your mileage and divide it however you want to. That's not the best coaching mindset. But ultimately, people like this aren't looking for coaches. They just want to be able to complete it. So I would say, just say, okay, well, I can run 4 days a week and I'm going to start my training load at 15 miles a week. Get 15 miles and then divide that however you want. I personally wouldn't say be doing it as divided by 4. I'd be breaking it down to whatever numbers you want. Because there will be days when you come home from work and you are tired. And maybe you have got, I don't know, a 12-mile run planned. And you feel shit. Go run 9 miles. But guess what? It just means you're going to have to run more later in the week. And that's fine. And then get to the end of the week, do it all over again. Get to the end of the week, do it all over again. And that number starts at 15 and ends at 70, doesn't it? And just linearly progress it. Well, if my race is in 15 weeks, I'm going to have a 13-week training block with a little bit of deloading in between it and like taper into it. But ultimately start at 15 miles and you're at 70 miles. And you could probably go online and find calculators and do what you want. All I ever did is I had 11 or 12 weeks training block. I wanted to run 100 miles and then deload for the week and then run 105 or 100 miles again on the Sunday. So I finished my last hard session on the Sunday and I raced the next Sunday. So a lot of my deload was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I overcooked myself because I'm an idiot and I always overcook myself. But I started at 30 miles and I ended at 100 miles. And like I said, I just added loads of gym work in at the start because it's easy to run 30 miles and have gym work. But then once you run 100 miles, I think I did 1 gym session, that day. And it was probably only an hour long that week, sorry. And it's just scaling that back down to the person doing 50K.
2 things, and they're different sides of the same coin. You're talking about doing a 200-mile event.
Yes.
How long is that going to take, do you think? How long are you going to be on your feet for?
The hard thing is it comes down to races. This is the problem. There's barely any 200-mile races in the UK, understandably. And pretty much all of them are mountainous. The thing about mountain races is you can't just go and run mountain races. And you will only know that if you've ever ran a foul run, not a trail, a foul. And I've only done very short fouls. I've done it twice now with my good friend, shout out Veronica. I did a 50K foul run, I did it twice now. And it's like 6,500 foot of elevation. So 34 miles, 6,500 foot of elevation. But pretty much all of that comes over Cad Idris, which is the second highest mountain in Wales. So you get clapped with like 4,000 foot of elevation over like 6 miles or something daft. And it's horrendous. But like it's such a different aspect of running. Because going up is horrendous and coming down is horrendous. And unless you train in the mountains, and Veronica lives over in Wales, so she's an absolute fucking animal. As I found out recently, where she embarrassed me, destroying me on the mountain and then finished like an hour ahead of me. Yeah, that's different. But over 200 miles, that's a different beast. Because if you've got a lot of them are like 200 miles and like 35,000 foot of elevation. Yeah. That is crackers. And I'm sitting here saying, just book the race, you can do it. There's a difference if you're going to go for that. So I don't live in the mountains. I run hills every single day, and I'm good. I am hill trained, and I'm really good on hills. But there's difference between hills and mountains. So I'm trying to find a race. If I can find a relatively flat race, saying that I found a flat race, and it's a half a mile out in a tunnel and half a mile back in a tunnel, but it's pitch black. There's no elevation gain, but you are in the darkness for 200 miles. And I was thinking about, part of me genuinely thought, why would you want to do that? And then part of me was like, did I book that as my 200-mile race? But that's crazy in itself, because that's so far and mentally in the pitch black where you can't see for 200 miles, which would probably take me 50, 60 hours. And that's not going to bed. That's like you had your mate outside in a camper van, and after like 70 miles, you jump in the bed for 20 minutes to stave off hallucinations, which I don't think would work in that pitch black. Who knows what happened to you there? And then you sleep for 20 minutes, you wake up and you go back out. I go back. My goal was I trained hard enough and I was a good enough runner to run over 100 miles in under 20 hours. I had a horrendous day. I slept about 2.5 hours the night before. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. I got to about 7 miles into my race and my shins were on fire. And I was like, oh man, this is terrible. But even with that all being said, probably one of the worst days I could ever have out there, I still ran it 105 miles in 23 hours and 50 something minutes with it all going wrong. The difference is then that doesn't then just mean 200 miles is an extra 24 hours or 20 hours. It then changes because you're in a hole. So realistically, 50 to 65 hours, depending on the course, with like little naps, like 20-minute naps, 30-minute naps. So yeah, probably that. If I can find the right course.
If you can find the right course. But this brings me on to the line of questioning, which is, what's after that? 300 miles? When are you going to stop, Rhys? When are you content? What does contentment feel like to you? Have you ever known contentment?
I think this is probably where my brain operates a little bit differently. I don't put myself on a pedestal, but I do think my brain maybe thinks differently, because when I speak to a lot of people, they're so content and so happy with their goals. And I just don't think that way. It's really bizarre. I don't sit on my laurels after I've done a race and think, yes, I'm so proud of myself. I'm literally happy after that because I can have a beer and have a bit of food. And then literally the next day I wake up, I'm like, what's next? And I can't really explain why I'm like that, but I never sit and never bask in like, oh, I don't even think about the races anymore. I don't think like, I can't believe you ran that far or you've done this. Like, I think it's the same with like the charity stuff. I don't sit there and bask and I just move on to the next, because that is life, isn't it? It's just moving on and moving on and moving on. So what is next? I don't freaking know. I think the problem is that my plan, well, I do know, I have a rough idea, but I don't know where it stops. But the 200-mile race for charity is going to go down this year. However I do it, I don't know, but it's going to go down. I'm going to do it for Cameron's course again. And then I want to do a last man standing ultra, which is obviously 4.2 miles per hour on the hour. And it stops when the last man finishes. So no one wins it, or no one finishes it, because it's open-ended. So you get 100 people, or whatever the figure is, 100 people together. You got it. The bell goes, you got to run 4.2 miles. You run that as fast as you want or as slow as you want, as long as you are back before the hour. If you're back in half an hour, you get half an hour rest. If you're back at 59, you're literally coming through the door and you're going straight back out. And then people drop out as they go. And then the last man is the last man who's standing, the last man standing ultra. But the fascinating thing that is, they're really hard because you can quit at any point. Because you see your friends and family and your food and your friend and your bed every 4.2 miles. When you're out in the middle of the woods, yeah, and you're absolutely crying at 4 a.m, almost borderline hypothermic, you can die. And I almost thought I was going to die at one point. I was borderline hypothermic on my race, but there was no choice. What did I do? Just got to keep running. And I kept running. But on them races, it's very mental. Like, you can imagine being like, I'm in a hole. Do I just quit? Maybe you do. And I think this is what I realized, that every time I ran a race at 30 miles, I'm in a hole. I don't feel good. I always call the missus and I'm always just like, fuck, why am I here? And that's someone who's trained, but I always have that feeling at 30 miles. But I always know the goal is the goal. So I'm finishing it. So on the last man standing, it'll be interesting to see how mentally I cope. So there's that. And then after that, the only thing I'd want to do, and again, it doesn't know if it logistically makes sense, because obviously me and Mrs. have a kid and stuff, like there's a lot more things to navigate with work as well. I would like to do one of the big 250 races in America. Now, they are mountainous. They're like, you get Cocodona, you got the Moab 240. So they're like 250 miles, 240 miles in like Colorado, I think it is. It's like 37,000 foot of elevation. But you're going through like desert where it's super hot, it's super cold. That would probably be the ultimate goal. And I think if I did that, then I'd be content. But the truth is I wouldn't. I don't think it ever stops, does it? It just moves on to something new. When I was 19 years old, I thought one day I was going to be the world records, have the world record in the squat for my category. And it was like, at like 77 kilo, I think it was. It squatted like 315, like raw. And I truly thought I could do that, because I squatted some really good numbers and did really well. But I always dream big, and I don't know really. I don't know where it ends, if I'm really honest. We'll just find out, I suppose.
How do your close ones, partner, family, feel about you doing these big events? Like you say, if you go from desert to ice, or you're just in the woods by yourself, you're nowhere near your support team or a fueling station or a rest station, there is every chance that you could
die.
Yeah. Like, does this go through? I mean, it goes through your head clearly, and you've talked about being in the hole, but you also talk about how you just go through it, and it almost sounds like you aren't afraid of that. And I do know people who do approach life and death as part of the same thing. But obviously, for your wife, for your family, there must be you tell me, do they talk to you about it? Do they talk to you about concerns? Do they hide them from you? How does it work?
So obviously my family dynamic is very different. I have a very, 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 very strange family dynamic. It's not the typical nuclear family, and my parents aren't my parents to me, really. I'm almost parents to them in a sense. Like, I don't have that. I've never been brought up with that. So there's never no concern from my parents. My parents, it's so hard without going into crazy depth about it and like the psychology of things. They don't worry about me. Like, my dad just believes in me. He's like, you just do what you want. I believe he'll do it. But there's never no concern there in the sense of, I don't know, but they're not stereotypical parents. It's hard to explain. They don't, like, when I see my Sasha's parents, they're very like, I don't know, like, not empathetic. They're just different. They're probably like your parents. They're like Westy's parents. They interact in a certain way. Whereas I don't have that relationship. It's almost like, I can't really comment on that. So I don't have that pressure. The only person who puts, not pressure on me, who puts concern on me is Sasha, because she had that upbringing. So I think maybe this is the big difference is that because I don't think that way, I find it really hard to even comprehend it. So it's not even if that's probably why I don't think about it, because I haven't been raised that way. I'm not concerned. I'm just like, yeah, be sound, just do it, whatever it is. It's not that big of a deal. Just go do it. If you're going to talk about it, do it. So no. As for Sash, yeah, she does stress about it. She hates it. She doesn't like it. But she's so different to me. She knows exactly who I am and what she's got herself into. She just got to accept I am the way I am, and I'm unbelievably stubborn, and I'm unbelievably that my compulsions drive me, and it comes from a good place. And she knows that, and it's just something I've got to do. And again, I can't explain it to her. I can't explain it to you. I can't explain it to anybody. It's just something I've got to do. And there's no rhyme or reason or purpose to it. I do have a lot of people say to me, like, I don't know why you do that, or why you, like, pretty much everyone says to me, I don't know why you do that, or put yourself through it. It's just so hard, I think. I think when you think a certain way, it's hard to even comprehend because you're just thinking on different wavelengths. Doesn't mean they're right or I'm wrong, or I'm wrong or they're right. It doesn't matter. I guess I just think slightly differently, I suppose. But I will pull it back earlier. I think one thing with that is it comes from trauma and hard work. I think I've realised if I want anything in life, I've just got to go and get it. And I think that's probably one of the big driving factors of people like Sasha would sit back and be like, why would I need to do that for? Like, my parents have a great life and they've worked really hard in X, Y, and Z. And like, I want that. I see that. That's what I want, obviously from her perspective. Whereas for me, I've just seen chaos my entire life, apart from like, if I work hard, it'll be good. So fuck it, let's just do it. So I'm quite chaotic in that sense and risk seeking. So I guess it comes down to like risk seeking, I suppose. I'm just curious because one day I'm going to die. I'm just curious to see what I can achieve one day. Because before I know it, I'm going to be older. I'm going to be too old and I ain't going to do it. I'd love to be sitting there one day, 80 years old, and be like, I ran 250 miles for no apparent reason. But I did it.
Obviously, I'm not your therapist or psychologist or in the circle that Sash, your partner, Sasha.
Yeah.
It feels to me that a way for you to harness your energy and to bring structure to chaos that you can move through is by doing these big events. You know, you have a number to aim for. And if you're into your lifting, numbers become everything. You research the shoes, the kit, the 300-pound swimsuit.
Yeah.
Numbers for you are a way to make sense of chaos, it feels like. And they're tangible to you in a way that maybe other people, you know, myself included, would like to lean into words more from time to time.
Yeah.
There are numbers that I'm interested in, but those numbers for me will come from, you know, when I was playing Pokemon as a kid and looking at all the stats that they all had.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe a bit like you, I'll research everything before I buy it. You know, like I want to know the specs of things and how it stacks up and all of that.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's anything to admonish. I don't think it's necessarily anything to celebrate. It's something to allow and to see where it goes. And I think more power to you for knowing what it is that helps you to feel peaceful or kind of where you need to be. And that's something that everybody, I think, aspires to, even if they don't understand the mechanism by which you achieve it.
Yeah, I think that's a great word there, the mechanism of things. I think I very fortunately understand my mechanisms and understand I have a good connection with myself in the sense of like, I know what I need to do to make myself okay. And I think I use them mechanisms, don't I? And clearly racing big races or doing hard things is a mechanism for control. So it is quite fascinating. But that's one point with the mechanism of control and doing hard things. Like this comes to a shock to everyone. And I truly mean this. And people do not believe me, but I hate running. Like, I despise it. It sucks. I don't enjoy it. I never want to do it. but I just do it. And I've just learned that if you can do something hard every day, then you can achieve anything. And it sounds crazy, not being some motivational geezer, but if you do something very hard every day, then of course you can do it. Like I was ice bathing for absolute ages, for like a year. And then like I run every day pretty much. I hate running, but like I truly believe that, not in an arrogant way, but if I put my focus to something and I dedicate myself and go all in on it, I can achieve it. I think a lot of people feel a bit lost in this world, don't they? Because they're not sure what they want to do with their life or career or work or training. And they feel a bit like, what's the word? Like they don't trust themselves, or they feel like they're low confidence in themselves.
Mm.
Whereas I think that's just that they haven't, like, I don't know, I think that they lean into comfort sometimes. Whereas if you lean into discomfort, it helps you then be comfortable, because you learn to do things you don't want to do. And if you can do the things you don't want to do, then you can do anything. And then once you become that way, you are comfortable with yourself, because you don't need to like look for external things to make you feel better, be it drink or drugs or other bits and bobs, or unhealthy mechanisms. For me, like once you learn that, you know what, these things make me tick, these things help me, so I'm going to lean into them. And if they're hard, you just do it hard. If it's hard, we'll do it hard. And for me, training is hard, but if I lean into it, it makes me feel better. So I've just learned by doing hard things every day that I feel better. And ultimately, if I can force myself to do stuff I don't want to do, then I can do stuff that I do want to do for me.
And I think a phrase that I might use for you, Rhys, that I've not used for anyone else, is time on feet. I think it is. I think that runs through a lot of what we've discussed.
Yeah.
Is that if you put the time in, it will amount to something. And if it doesn't quite feel right, question it, interrogate it, maybe bring other people into it. You know, maybe you can't do it all by yourself. Maybe you do need a push. Maybe you need somebody to be a little bit hard on you. But ultimately, if you don't try, you know, if you don't actually go out and do the thing, you'll never know.
No, and you will never know. And it's almost like linking time and feet into the relationship with these people, obviously with Cameron and obviously his family, is that's time on feet. I put a lot of time into that. Like, yeah, I just find it so crazy, you know, sometimes these little things that happen in your life. And I think these are the beautiful things, aren't they? And like, it's the silver lining, I suppose, of it, is that through the passing off Cameron, which is really crap, I've made some amazing friends, like lifelong friends I have through them. And I feel very honoured that they've allowed me to be part of the journey with them. Like Darren, honestly, the geezer, he's like a second dad to me. Like, he's genuinely so cool, man. Like, he's just such a nice, loving, warming person. And the same with Bernie. I'd sort of pinch myself sometimes and just think, how did I get here? But no, I feel very grateful that we sort of have that, and hopefully I'll go out for dinner with them soon. And the same with Chandler and stuff. And it's like, she's almost like a little sister in a sense. It's bizarre. But I would never have thought that. I never thought that would happen. But it's crazy how life drags you and guides you through in different ways. And then you meet certain people, a bit like yourself as well. Like, you just bump into people, and then next thing you know, you have really meaningful connections. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And obviously a fellow Sean's really class. And then lastly, another thing through that, I ended up meeting Ethan, who was 20 at the time. He's now 21. Because obviously he did some of the fundraising for the second race. He ran 100K, I think it was. So during my 100-mile prep, he was doing prepping for 100K. And this guy never really ran very much. And obviously me and him like just had some mad connection. Like, I speak to this kid every day. I mean, literally 7 days a week. Be around my house for dinner all the time. He's training me 5 days a week. And that's another crazy one. I made a great lifelong friend there in Ethan through Cameron. And yeah, all I would say is, if people are planning to ever do anything or do nice things or be nice, go do it. Do it charity work or whatever. You never know where it ends up, because I feel very privileged to have met obviously them people I've just mentioned. So yeah, that is nice. And same with training. You know what was lastly about the whole crazy bit of time on feet thing? It's crazy now that prior to Cameron, I ran super intermittently. I mean, I'd book a race, I'd run for 2 to 10 weeks, and then I wouldn't run again. I wouldn't run for 6 months, a year. Like I said, prior to the race, I didn't run for over a year. But now, since doing 100 miles, like, I've kept running. And it's so crazy to think that, like, Cameron is so like intertwined into my life, you know, that when I run 200 miles, it won't be because of me, it will be because of Cameron ultimately. And I mean that 100%, because I would never have done that if it weren't for him. And I probably likely wouldn't have ran the 100 miles because I wouldn't have booked the 70. But when I did the 70, I was like, I could definitely go for 100. And it's so crazy to think, like, it's like a sliding door theory, isn't it? It's like one little small cascading effect. Before you know it, maybe I'll run 250 miles one day in the Cocodona or the Moab 240. And like, yeah, crazy, man. Do the damn thing. If you don't do it, you never know. And if you do it, it might turn out great.
I love that. Rhys, where can people follow you? Would you be game to send them to your socials?
Rhys, RHYS,
Yeah.
J Morris _. That's my Instagram. I do post stuff every now and again. I do plan on posting a bit more, but that's where you would find me.
It's been class to have you on, lad. And obviously, I'm going to be following you for as many of the steps as I possibly can when it comes to the big event. Yeah, I really appreciate you making the time.
No, thank you, my man. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's been nice. It's been nice to actually explore some of these things, back in my own mind and stuff, because I've put them to bed and it's nice. So thank you for taking the time to have me on here and listen to me absolutely waffle on.
Appreciate it, lad. I've never gotten to a point with a conversation, Rhys, where multiple batteries have died.
Oh, I'm so sorry, my friend.
That's all good.